Hey everyone, and welcome back to the news. We've got another stacked week, this time almost entirely full of good stuff. We've got no spoiler lore, we've got generally good news, 8.2 is coming along pretty darn well. First though, a big thanks to everyone at Patreon. This is currently your last chance to get this month's physical reward after the end of the Warlock and Twisting Nether. So yeah, it's the Warlock theme, you got the 2 art cards and the vinyl sticker, plus shipping is also included. It comes in one of these big nice guys that we designed. And yeah, we'll have our next class and theme once the month ticks over. A big thank you to everyone who supports us there. It's the best way to help out what we're doing here. And with that, let's get straight into the video. Okay, let's kick it off with the fun stuff. Players who have been blessed with the gift of Ny'alotha have logged into the sound of whispers. Yes, whispers. Now, it's just those players with the gift of Ny'alotha from the Crucible of Storms questline that have the whispers, and presumably they're from Ny'alotha himself. What does this mean? Well, I think it's all rather clear. So, in recent times, Blizzard have teased patches in-game. Before patch 7.2, we got a mission table quest that involved scouting the Broken Shore. Then, in the lead up to 7.3, of course, we had that far more impactful questline with Magni, which, well, it revealed fairly deep corruption in Azeroth. In fact, in many ways, it really teased a lot of the BFA Azeroth B-plot. Anyway, these whispers are following in this tradition, but I suspect there's a lot more. Why? Well, remember that Mother told Magni that her analysis would take 77 cycles, right? Now, that analysis was all about the planet's corruption and what was going on, and we're fast approaching that 77-day mark, which does tick over at the end of this month. What does that mean? Well, it means, I'm fairly sure, we'll see an encrypted quest unlock this coming Tuesday for the US, Wednesday for the EU. I have zero idea what it will be, but we can presume it will involve the Champions of Azeroth quest to work out how to save the planet. It'll likely tie into the Old God elements of this patch because, of course, yes, Ny'alotha does kick off because of the faction war, but it's in a way that is manipulated by the Black Blade of the Empire, so you can kind of see it all tied together. Basically, though, I really love this stuff. Sure, it's a small touch, but logging in to have all the, Lovecraftian whispers, that's a nice little touch. It's a great way of keeping the narrative engaging, and it's a fun creative opportunity for Blizzard that I'm really happy to see them take. Next though, we've got Zaquel. Yes, it's not it for the Old Gods, is it? Over on the 8.2 PTR, Blizzard recently renamed an NPC from Zaquel Herald of Ny'alotha to Zaquel Harbinger of Ny'alotha. That's quite the difference, and once more begs the question of just what the hell Ny'alotha is. Now, the most simple explanation here is that Ny'alotha is the capital city of the Black Empire. Now, that's the name of kind of the Old God Order in Azeroth, way back before the Titans arrived. So, at that time, the Old Gods had arrived, they subjugated the Azerothian elements, and, well, it's all a bit gnarly, really. Races like the Akir and the Faceless ones, they seemingly formed out of the, biomass from the Old Gods themselves. It's pretty, ugh. Anyway, the Black Empire was in a constant state of war, right? All the different Old Gods were just warring with each other. It was just chaos. But it is possible they had a capital city, right? A center of power, and that may have been Ny'alotha. That's the simple explanation. The more complex one is, well, rather cosmic. Given all the talk of the Circle of Stars, that's not too surprising to me. There are millions of Old Gods out there, canonically, at least that's what I believe. I mean, not literally canonically, but through implication. So the Old Gods kind of rain down on planets like parasites, they infect them and they corrupt them, with of course the goal being to, nom up a Titan world soul, all in service of their Void Lord Masters. Now, if there are many different, Old Gods in Azeroth, and there are loads of different Old Gods from all the different planets, then maybe they have some sort of seat of power in the cosmos, an origin point. What if this origin point was Ny'alotha? In which case, we would have this Herald of Ny'alotha appearing in this patch, which would make it altogether a little bit more creepy, or at the very least of a grander scale, as it would open up the door for 8.3 being a fight with Ny'alotha, but Ny'alotha being a separate thing in a future location. The Old Gods are of course heavily inspired by the work of H.P. Lovecraft, and well, the sort of successor authors. Now, in that mythos, which now spans many authors, celestial locations are often tied to powerful and mythological creatures, like the Old Ones. For an example, Zoth is a binary star system where Cthulhu used to live. The physical manifestation of Azathoth is supposedly the supermassive black hole at the center of the Milky Way galaxy. If you want cosmic cities, like what we think Ny'alotha is, you, again, need not look further than the Lovecraft mythos and how it references Carcosa, which is an ancient city in the Hades star cluster. Indeed, if you picked up the myriad Lovecraftian elements from the first season of True Detective, yep, Matthew McConaughey H.P. Lovecraft, that's a thing, you'll recognize Carcosa from True Detective. Suffice to say, Ny'alotha could easily be a cosmic location. Either way though, seeing more Ny'alotha hints certainly is exciting for a fan of the old god lore like myself, and yeah, it just means, for me, I'm fairly sure 8.3 will not be the end of the old gods, and I kind of would like it that way. I think it would be pretty cool if we maybe deal with N'Zoth, and in the process he raises up the others on Azeroth, or maybe, you know, sets us off on some cosmic quest. Of course, Ny'alotha could be involved in that cosmic quest because she pretty much left to go and venture the stars. So overall, it's pretty cool. Anyway, let's go back down to ground level with the Worgen Goblin Heritage Armor. This is sort of old, but I kind of want to touch it from the lore. Blizz have confirmed that the Worgen and Goblin will be the next Heritage Armor recipients. It makes a lot of sense. 8.2.5 will probably have that, plus their model revamp, and that's great to hear, but lore-wise it could be interesting. The Worgen are due some lore. We really don't know how the wars hit Gilneas. We don't really know what the state of Gilneas is, plus the Worgen, along with the Night Elves, will be hungry for further vengeance, and with the Tauren Heritage Armor, Blizz are also tying in sort of current plot elements with the Tauren armor, so it's not like they're not going to do that in the future. As with goblins, well, Gallywix does have that big cannon. It's been teased to us that that cannon will be fired, so I'm dead interested to see if the Heritage Plot questline will cover that, or maybe something else more fundamental to the goblins. But anyway, that's what's going on there. Let's move on to the gameplay elements of patch 8.2, and we'll kick it off with the maybe good news, maybe a new talent for everybody. So 8.2 is adding in a new essence that gives you an extra PvP talent, but it's one that's also always active in PvE content, yes, including raids. We were a bit confused about this initially last week, but it has since hit the PTR and it seems to make a lot more sense. It does not actually give you another PvP talent slot. Instead, it merely activates a chosen by Blizz PvP talent for your spec all the time. Now that PvP talent is therefore preset, will work in PvE as well. Now that's of course something that's vital for PvE balance, because many of the PvP talents, well, they would be super OP or quite hard to balance. But on that note, this whole thing seems pretty darn hard to balance anyway. Of course, Blizz have said the stuff's subject to change, especially in relation to the druids, but that really is just the case for everything in the PTR. Now, what's nice to see is that this pretty much just does give you an extra active talent. And yes, that means that unlike most other essences, it's, you know, a gameplay effect that's designed for your spec. Now, I get a new healing and damage spell as Windwalker, I get a fist weaving cooldown for Mistweaver, and a damage increasing effect for Brewmaster. If you're Blood DK, 2 Death Grips. Havoc get a Metamorphosis cooldown reduction down to 2 minutes that also only gives it a 15-second duration, so it could be situationally better. Frost Mages have a direct location cast for their Frozen Orb. Ret has a Blessing of Freedom giving a 30% movement speed increase. Fury gets new single target resource and health regen effect. There's loads more, of course. It's all subject to change, and I think you can see that it's essentially like getting another, you know, a miniature version of another PvE talent, because the effectiveness varies wildly here, okay? The balance just does not seem comparable for many of them, and yeah, it's totally a band-aid. It's not really more for our classes because it is attached to an essence. So, I mean, it's a cool idea. I kind of like what they're trying to do. It's probably not going to be competitive though, and I suspect that other essences will be what people go for in PvE scenarios. Maybe this is just something that is nice for PvP players when they go into PvE. Anyhow, with BFA out of the way, let's talk about Classic. It has continued to perform fantastically well on Twitch, leading to World of Warcraft seeing numbers that actually are just massive. BFA launch day averaged 280k viewers, with the following fortnight ending up stabilizing about 70k. Okay, well, Classic did not have as high an initial average, but it still was averaging just under 100k over the last few days. Overall, yeah, it's a bit smaller than the BFA expansion launch, but barely so, and it blows BFA beta out of the water. And remember, this is Classic beta. I think it's rather expected though. There are loads more kind of world firsts in a way. There's like the world first Classic Dead Mines, right? That's a big event that people will care about. There's just so many major events for the audience who are interested in that, doubly so because it's often teams of streamers. Classic has of course seen massive support from streamers, so really it's not unexpected that it's done so well in Twitch. There's a lot of demand for Classic, yes, I do think that, but also it's like the top personalities playing it, and the fact that it's a lot of those people who have championed it in the past. And I think it's also just a rather unique type of viewership draw. I think there are many people who wouldn't really be interested in playing it, but totally will watch Asmongold and Esfand and co. Play it. That's not to diss Classic, though. Not at all. It's just sort of me trying to explain the Twitch number situation, because it does have the personality-driven element factor in. Now, that said, Blizzard also did then go on to do the beta stress test. It rather predictably broke the servers, with people not really being able to log in and just stuff falling over all over the place. Such was the demand. This likely, though, in my opinion, says more about Blizzard's handling of the player counts than anything. Indeed, that's why they're running the stress test. Chances are this was them stress testing a certain server config and a certain amount of capacity. And, you know, it's like, we want our servers to fail so we can see how they deal with failing. I think that maybe the upcoming later May one will be maybe testing another configuration. Now, that's not to take away from interest in Classic. I know for sure it is big, and I know that personally I'll be jumping in as soon as I get the time. It's just an interesting sort of thing to think about, how the server engineers are messing around with all that. But undoubtedly, Classic launch demand will be massive. That's why they've put all of this time into layering and all of that stuff. It'll just be interesting to see how long will Classic last. Will it be this massive thing at the start and then people just drop off when it just turns out it's a slower game, or will it keep on going? And if it does keep on going, which I personally really hope it does, and I actually think it probably will, will Blizz just move on to TBC and Wrath, or will they do what Jagex did with old school RuneScape and decide, you know what? There was like design philosophies here that are worth continuing into the future and actually doing something based on that. Personally, I'd love to see the latter, but anyway, let's move on. And really, this is just a super quick thing. It's just a note on our reduced output. You will have no doubt noticed that. We've just not put out that much content on the WoW channel. I've went into this fully with the patrons on a recent vlog, but yeah, I'm aware the last week and a bit has been kind of sparse. We had a few videos get sort of knocked back. The core of it is actually a good thing, though. It's that we're now bottlenecked by our editing time and not by our writing time. And that's actually a first. And what's great is it means that if we bring on another editor, then both channels should be running up at full speed. That is the plan, and Matt is now a lot more trained in writing, so because of that, there is a fairly large retrospective series for World of Warcraft that we will be kicking off here, probably 2 episodes per month for like half a year. That's the plan. We want to do it within the next month, but we'll see. Anyway, that's it for the news. Quite a nice week, really. Yeah, sure, the fun police cropped up, but overall, a lot of positive stories for once. It's nice to see Classic be off to such a strong start. And sure, 8.2 is not going to fix BFA. It's not going to turn the ship around, but it might actually have BFA level off and just sort of be a solidly playable game. But it'll be a patch full of experiments that Blizzard will learn from and hopefully implement into the next expansion, which will hopefully be better. And yes, it's sad that I have to say that, but, given everything right now, it's probably our best case scenario. Anyhow, thank you very much for watching this video. Let me know about what you think on everything down below. And with that, I'll see you next time.